pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Look at the window light. Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute the minutes for the special meeting on January 19, 2016.
Make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
Financials today include a revenue certification for the engineer's office for interfund transfers for OPWC road projects. An appropriation transfer to the juvenile court's 1001-007-02-901 other expense line item in the amount of $124,732.34 in response to a journal entry issued by Judge Timothy Grindal to the Board of County Commissioners on January 6, 2016. Cash transfers out of the general fund for the third quarter state fiscal year 2016 commitment to Family First Council and a portion of 2016 funding for the Office of Community and Economic Development. Travel request for the Building Department, Department of Job and Family Services, and the Juvenile Court. Payments to Kent Marks Home Improvements for Phase 1 and 2 of the Thompson Township Community Center Rehabilitation Project for the Office of Community and Economic Development totaling $60,183.26, and a payment to Keystone Management's FICO Integrated Security LLC for the purchase and installation of security cameras at the Geauga County Safety Center in the amount of $21,887.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution 16-009, itemizing the financials for the meeting of January 26, 2016.
Before we make a motion on this, I want to read a couple of statements. So the public clearly understands the position we're in. And I'm referring to the probate juvenile court, $124,000 that we court ordered to supply. We'll be voting to do that this morning. But everybody needs to understand the complexity and the challenges that this board has. I'm going to read an Attorney General opinion to you, and I apologize to you, this is, I get a little technical. I want everybody to know that while some have made claims that we don't understand the separation of powers and that we don't understand our duty, we have consulted with the state auditor, we've consulted with our attorney, we've consulted with the state attorney, or the state auditor's attorney. We have read the Supreme Court handbook on how the courts are supposed to act. We have a proliferation of information that we've attempted to study and to understand our duty and the duty of the court and so on and so forth. So, Attorney General opinion, in order to adopt the county's annual budget as opposed to Ohio Revised Code 5705 upon the Board of County Commissioners, that's us, as the taxing authority of the county. It goes on to give a bunch of other legal references. In order to assist the Board of County Commissioners in the performance of duty, the head of each department, board, commission, district authority, yada, 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 is entitled to participate in appropriation of revenue, shall file with the board before the 45th day prior to the date of the budget, which must be adopted, an estimated contemplated revenue and expenditures for the ensuing year, in the manner prescribed by this authority. This is a legal opinion, by the way. I'm going to skip a lot of the guts of that legal opinion. You're welcome to a copy if you'd like. It's fun reading at night in place of Downton Abbey or whatever you might be watching. It would appear that the judicial standard for reasonableness and necessity for determining the extent of legislative authority and duty to appropriate funds requested by the court necessarily requires a court to include in its budget or request for funding some description of the purposes for which the funds are requested. So far, we've received no description of the purpose for the funds about which we're about to deposit into another account. bunch of highlighted points in here. Supreme Court Justice, this is the Supreme Court Justice Handbook, Ohio Judicial Conference Budget Reference Handbook. This is what the Supreme Court says about the duties of the judges in the courts. Judges should keep in mind that Ohio law requires the court submit a budget that is reasonable and necessary for its operation. Courts should take the time and care to prepare a budget request with narrative explanation for each line item. The narrative should explain why the budget amounts are necessary and reasonable, and particularly explain in detail any requested increase or decrease. That's what the Supreme Court says that the judges should do. They're not obligated to do. They have choice in how they operate. And so, but what the judges do impacts our ability to do our duty. And that is to determine the reasonableness and the necessity of the funds that we are charged to oversee, which is your money, the taxpayer dollars. And so we're about to appropriate dollars into an account which we have no understanding of what their use is. We've reached out to the state auditor. I will tell you, I am very disappointed in the state auditor. We've looked to get some assistance. Tell us yes or no, good or bad. Give us an opinion. It's been very reluctant to do that, even though I've talked to their staff, and Dave can tell you this, in a very emotional conversation. The best that they will say is that this is not best practice. Everything else they would say only off the record, which is very disappointing to me. And so, with that said, we have a duty to comply with the court order. Unless we can determine that this is unnecessary and unreasonable, we have no reason to think that it is not. We certainly don't want to presume for the court how they're going to use their money. We could force the issue, hiring an attorney and spending money to do that. I don't think that the people in Geauga County would allow us to spend more attorney fees to do that. But it is I wish this situation was different. We have a good judge, he has a good court operation. I agree with Judge Grindell on most things, many things. In this matter, I disagree with him. And so, I'm not gonna say more than that. We respect the court. We certainly want to ensure that the court has the funding necessary to do their jobs. And we are going to follow the court order, I believe, unless the other two gentlemen choose to vote no to this court order. With that said, I've had my say, and so I'm ready for a motion.
Excuse me, can you take comments, or are you?
You can ask a question, just state your name and say where you're from.
The name is Ed Buckles out of Troy Township. The perception in the community, I think, is that this is all a big act, that each party is taking a position for its own clientele, and when all is said and done, the judge will get what he wants, and you will be able to say, we put up a good fight. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct. Couldn't be farther from the truth.
I don't see any indication that any fight is taking place. You could let him issue his order of mandamus and hire counsel to fight the issue, and it appears that you have an Attorney General report that suggests that you have good grounds for doing such a fight.
Are you a resident of the county?
Troy Township, sir.
And would you want to spend $30,000 or $100,000 to fight, to make a point over $124,000?
If the judge is correct, then every court in the county can submit a budget to you without any background whatsoever and spend the money of the taxpayers willy-nilly without any oversight. It seems to me that it's not just the Honorable Judge Timothy J. Grindell, it's every judge in the county could do this. In fact, every judge in the state could do this. So it seems to me that this is an important issue that needs to be fought at some point or another.
Well, I appreciate your opinion. You don't know what goes on in the office behind, or I don't say behind closed doors, because we're putting it out on the table here. Clearly, you can see that we've been doing a lot of homework. We would not have done this if this was a facade. I can tell you the countless of hours that we've spent on the phone with an attorney, and the amount of money that we spent with an attorney to find out what our legal bases are for this whole thing, and at least for my, I can't speak for the other two gentlemen, because we're not allowed to talk behind closed doors. But I can say for my own purpose, and I think this, I get confirmation from my staff, because they've been involved with this, we have worked as hard as we can work to ensure that we're doing what is legal, what is correct, and what is right for the citizens of this county. And, you know, at some point in time, unfortunately, the way that the laws are structured, the judge does have the right to run his court without interference. We cannot presume for him how he's going to use his money. All of that he says, and he is correct on that. The law is clear on that. Now, it is the courts and our, generally speaking, the courts do the responsible thing. Not that he's not doing the responsible thing, but they come to the budget hearings, they participate in the conversation, and they, you know, we work together to ensure that the budgeting process is what it should be. In this case, we have a bit of a difference of thought in terms of approach. And again, I'm not going to presume to judge for the judge, you know, how he runs his court and so on and so forth. I don't want to disrespect him in any way, shape, or form, let me be clear, because his office deserves that respect. However, we're challenged in doing our duty, because our responsibility is to determine reasonableness and the necessity of that money. Now, we're talking about in a what's his budget, 1.2 million, 1.3 million? Yeah, it's about $1.2 million thereabouts, and so we're talking about a relatively small dollar amount. It is a supplemental dollar amount, so we're not talking about a significant dollar amount. If we could clearly identify a case to be able to determine that this, you know, we needed to challenge this, we would challenge this. This board would do that. But it doesn't make sense fiscally, respecting the tax dollars of the people in this county, that we spend their tax dollars to try and defend a case, and on its surface, it's, you know, the money is probably going to go to a good purpose. We just can't say that. We just don't know, because we've not been given the information to say that.
So you're being asked to buy a pig in a poke when push comes to shove here, and the argument of separation of powers and respect for the court should flow in the other direction. I don't think he's shown you folks as our representatives any respect, and you need to think about that. You indicated that we could get copies of that material. How do I go about getting copies of that
You
material?
just make a request.
Right now?
You can make a request, meet with Christie following this. We'd like to
I'll do that.
have you go, you know, it needs to be official, so we can hand you the information and log the information we provide and so on and so forth.
All right, I will do that.
You know, any and all information, it's all public information on this site, and you are free to communicate. You know, the great thing about our system, the way that it works, American system, the system in this county, is all citizens have the ability to communicate directly to the courts. They have the ability to communicate, and you know this because you do this all the time, communicate through the papers and through other citizens and so on and so forth. So everybody has the right to speak up here. And I feel we've done as much as we can do at this point in time, respecting, again, the taxpayer dollars. You know, we weighed, should we do something different? And it just didn't seem to make sense. I mean, it prolongs the angst between us and the court, and we do not want there to be this division between us and the court. We both work in this county, and we both want to respect each other in our each of our duties in our offices. And again, I'm speaking for myself here. I can't speak for the other two gentlemen. I know that Judge Grindell does a good job as a judge. His courts run well, and so, you know, I'm not going to do I'm not going to disrespect him here. But, you know, in this situation, we do have a bit of a challenge. That's not unusual or unheard of, so, go ahead.
Okay, has the
Please
additional,
state
I'm
your
Diane
name.
Jones from Auburn Township. Has the additional $194,000 that was referenced in the court order, has that situation been resolved, or is that,
Yes.
it has been resolved?
Yeah, that was a misunderstanding on our part. The courts found grant funding for that, and so it was not necessary, and so therefore that returned to the general fund.
Okay, so it's not just 124,000, it is 124 plus?
No,
What's the total amount?
it's 194 less than 124, right? Because we're not gonna,
correct?
He's not asking for the
Okay.
194,000.
Okay, so it's the difference between those two.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
No, anybody want to say anything
Well,
else?
yeah, before I make a motion, I want to stick my foot in my mouth, but this is not, this is not on, coming out of left field, our questioning the judge and his request for money. For the last couple of years, he's had programs that we funded to the amount that he wanted. We appropriated the money to those funds, and partway through the year, he would, or he did, at his discretion, take money out of those funds and transfer it to other accounts, which he's entitled to do that, but again, we appropriated it for one thing and then he paid something else out of it. What he paid out of it, I'm not sure I'm clear on that. And then came back the following year and asked for an increase on that line item, on our funding to that line item. When he didn't use what he had on that line item, he transferred it. So he has moved money around after we've given him money. There's no insurance or assurance that he won't do that again. But when it comes right down to it, two wrongs don't make a right. And him playing these financial games or alleged financial games is one issue. The other issue is he court ordered us to supply this money. Now, we could defy the court order, and there's a part of me that wouldn't mind doing that, but the weather's pretty nice and I don't want to spend a lot of time in jail. If it was real cold, I might do it. But it's not going to get us anywhere. We're fighting this battle, and the answers are above this board. The answers that we need are from downstate, and it's frustrating because most of us had asked someone for help down there, and they all avoid it like the plague. Whether they're doing something behind closed doors and I don't choose at this time to share it with us, but I've heard of nothing that's encouraging from the office people downstate. So I left that I reluctantly make the motion on the financials.
Second,
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
I'm gonna vote no, and based on the situation that I still think that, you know, they should have had some form of presentation as to where these dollars are going. And, you know, I understand this going back and forth with papers and letters and, you know, at the end of the day, I think, you know, we had a budget hearing specifically for the budget officer to be here and chose not to show up and just all the other stuff, so my position is no.
Commissioner Brinkley?
Well, thank you, guys. I am tortured on this matter, but I'm gonna vote yes.
I think the comment of tortured on the matter is probably pretty much unanimous at this table.
I would just put no next to your name on the sign.
Yeah, well, no, but-
number 3, I am reporting on items that I approved on January 21st and January 22nd. As you authorized via your approval of Resolution 16-005 pursuant to RRC 305.30. On January 21st, I executed a separation agreement with Catherine Delaney for her voluntary retirement resignation effective February 2nd, 2016. And on the 22nd, I approved and executed for community development a community development block grant housing semi-annual report for the period June 30th, 2016 through December 31st, 2016. And I
That's
approved
supposed
it.
to be 2015, Dave, sorry.
Okay, oh, so it was January,
They
June
are
30th.
2015.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is a 2015 report. And approved and executed an economic development revolving loan fund semi-annual report for the period June 30th, 2015, and that one goes through December
Yes.
31st of 2016. That's it. That's just those reports that were submitted.
That's 4 and 5. That's all. Oh, wait, I missed one. So sorry. There's more.
Take a short intermission while the commissioners execute these documents.
The county auditor is requesting the board accept, execute, and file the monthly statement of county finances filed by the county auditor for the months January through October 2015 pursuant to ORC 319.15. The county treasurer is requesting the board accept, execute, and file the monthly statement of county finances filed by the county treasurer for the months January through October 2015 pursuant to ORC 319.15.
I'll make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickwell?
Aye.
We have the treasurer's November and December, but we're still waiting for the auditor's November and December.
Do we want to move on and do this, and then we can sit here and sign?
Sure. Jessica's not here, so.
Yeah. This is just simply a action to approve the removal of Kathy Delaney, Assistant Site Coordinator, from paid administrative leave, which she was put on several weeks ago. That then ends with this action effective January 15th. She will then be taking vacation days until her official retirement resignation date, February 2nd.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board approve the removal of Kathy Delaney, Assistant Site Coordinator, from paid administrative leave effective January 15th, 2016.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickwell?
Morning, Dale.
With Ken Poston leaving, we had a vacancy on the local emergency planning committee for a hazmat rep for fire departments. Working with the Fire Chiefs Association, we came up with Eric Anderson of the Middlefield Fire Department. He has a background as an EMT paramedic, has all his ICS classes, and is on the Geauga County hazmat team, which he is now the lead on that. So he will be responding to all hazmat incidents in Geauga County. We find that he would be a great fit for the committee, and requesting the board sign the appointment so it can be sent to the State Emergency Response Commission for formal appointment by the state of Ohio.
Is he also fireman at the Air Force Base too?
I think that's his father.
Okay, okay.
Were there any other applicants for this, or?
We didn't see any.
Okay.
The fire chiefs typically select their representative, and we just go along with that.
Oh, okay.
So if it's good enough for all the fire chiefs, it's good enough for me.
It's good enough for them, it's fine for me, I don't, I had a question if there was open.
It's a
there.
hazmat role, and since he's now head of the Geauga County hazmat team, it just is a proper fit for that.
The continuity is.
Yes, correct, exactly.
Mhm.
The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the application for appointment of Eric Anderson as high representative to the State Emergency Response Commission, CERC, for appointment to the Geauga County Local Emergency Planning Committee, LEPC, for the period ending August 14th, 2017, to fill the unexpired term of Kenneth Olson.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
Aye.
Thank you.
Dale, I have a question for you. We're looking at reciting or putting in a site to do hazardous waste,
I talked to Greg about that.
and,
I forgot to call you, sir.
and so I thought I'd get your input on that.
Well, from my understanding from him, he was talking about that they were willing to spend $250,000 to build a structure if the commission would provide property for it, and they would man it several times a year, if not more than that. I'm not sure to what commitment they would man that, but I think it's better than, as you know, there's only twice a year, I think, they come to Geauga, one for computer components and one for hazardous materials, paints and propane and all that type of thing. And then, otherwise, you gotta drive to Warren to drop it off. And in the wintertime, they do nothing. You have to have that stuff sitting at home, which could be, very volatile to what you have sitting in your residence or whatever. I think it's a great idea, considering how much carryover money they have. And I think it would be a very big plus for Geauga County if you could centrally locate it somewhere like Post 2 or the Fairgrounds or someplace where you have a parcel of land. And from my understanding, if they were ever to not commit to keeping that going, then the county would inherit the building in which they built. That's from my understanding, Commissioner.
Because of your experience, and I don't want to take up time here with this, maybe you and I can visit later, but with your background and experience on the materials we're talking about, I had talked to Stericycle, who is the company they contracted with to take care of all of this stuff. We had talked about setting up multiple sites, or at least I had suggested that to them, and they threw out a lot of roadblocks on that. I'm not sure that I agree with some of their logic, and I needed a sounding board to bounce that off of, so I wanted to.
When you're dealing with hazardous materials and you never know what someone's gonna throw into a receptacle, I think it's very dangerous to have people throwing things into like we do with recyclables, paper, plastic, aluminum. You ever open one of the lids, people really don't care what they throw in there. And the same could be true with solvents and other things which, if mixed, could cause a volatile situation. So, in my opinion, if they would do several sites, that would be great, but even one where it was manned 2 or 3 times a month or once a week would be great for Geauga County. If you're talking about having something that's unmanned, I wouldn't think that would be a great idea.
Well, again, I don't want to take up a lot of time here, but if you look at the statistics on what it is they're collecting, the vast majority of it's paint.
Correct.
And so, and then there's some other hazards. So there could be policies, procedures set in place to handle the majority, make it easier for the citizens of the county. And I'd just like to explore that, to see if there's other arrangements that could be made to make it better. I happen to be one of those guys that if I'm working on the shop, I just dump everything in one bucket. And so I put the paint thinner in there, I put the muriatic acid in there, I throw in the paint, I throw all the stuff in, and when it starts bubbling really good, I take it over to Warren.
Now we
and
understand.
take care of it.
Very good, very good.
And so,
I think my
causes
recommendation
involved.
will remain the fact that as long as it's manned by someone who knows what they're accepting and can separate out, because I remember when I was taking this paint and some propane and some other things in my car, I got kind of scolded by the guys down at the facility saying if you were in an accident, these things were minor, could be an issue with it, so I still think it should be manned, but if they can man something in Geauga County once or twice a month, I think that's great.
Once or twice a month, not once or twice a year.
Yeah, correct, no.
Yeah, okay, because that's what I was gonna say, is
No, at least 2
to have
times.
it in our
No.
county and have it closed all winter, or to only open it on Wednesdays or whatever it is in the summertime.
That's ridiculous.
It's like,
I have stuff sitting in my garage from last year because I missed the date, and I'm not driving the Warren. We can't this time of year because they won't accept it. But like I said, from my understanding, they were gonna build you a $250,000 building to do this, as long as you provided the property, and they would man it. I don't know what commitment you got from them on comfortable.
Yeah, nothing, we're just in preliminary conversations right now.
I think it'd be a plus for Geauga County if you can do that, and if you can centrally locate it like at Fairgrounds, you own that property, or Post 2, or, you know, someplace like that. That's just my opinion.
Okay, I may draw some of your expertise and see if we can't, as we're working through this process, you know, enhance the, or maximize what our opportunity is on this. But I mean, I think the conversation's going in a great direction.
Oh, yeah,
You
I
know,
heard it was a very good meeting.
If you look at the numbers. I mean,
Progress, because no one's done this ever, I don't think. It's great.
so,
It's great for the citizens.
yeah. Yeah, well, like you say, I throw stuff in my garage because I'm waiting for that one event, and normally I miss that one event. And I have to take my bubbling pot of stew down to, so, but thanks, Dale.
I think a lot of people want to do the right thing. I mean, and, you know, be conscientious about how they recycle this material, or that they don't dump it where it's in the groundwater and so on and so forth. But I also think that it's still human nature that at some point in time, if it's not that convenient, we do something else with it. I mean, if it's gonna be laying around our garage for 6 months, or because they only do it every 6 months, there's always the landfill, and I don't condone that. I'm just saying I think that's the reality of
Well,
it.
my brother works for Universal, and he says a lot of people will pack it in something that you can't tell what it is, and they'll just throw it in their garbage. And unfortunately, I don't know, I'm sure that stuff at some point, I don't know if it gets into the aquifer or not, once it's
If you put something toxic in a plastic pail
Yeah.
and throw the plastic pail out, and then it goes through the pack more and gets all smashed up in there, then the integrity of the pail is no longer there, and eventually the stuff is gonna leach out into wherever, and that's not right.
people want to do the right thing, but you're making it a hardship on them if they got a driver warranty. You don't accept something from August to May, which is just ridiculous, especially since Geauga's part of it. If you're paying for it, you should get the service.
Well, and we're paying a lot for that. I mean, there's a lot of dollars involved there, so.
I agree.
But, all right, thanks, appreciate it. Any thoughts and opinion that you have on all that as we're trying to go through the process, then feel free to interject, throw in.
Thank you very much.
Morning, Craig.
Morning,
Hi,
everyone.
Nancy.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. How is everybody?
Good.
Good.
Well, we're here this morning, and hopefully you guys received the materials that came along with the motion. But
I did.
we're here to talk about Ohio Children's Trust Fund. House Bill 64, this last biennial budget, changed the way Ohio Trust Fund is going to be structured throughout the state. And what it's done, which is Skip's favorite thing, is created 8 regional councils throughout the state. And we're in the northeast. And it's sort of, they've broken down by size, population. And what it has also allowed for is each county that's part of each one of those regional councils, through the commissioner's office, appoint 2 representatives to be on this council. What's good about at least this regional concept is at least it's playing by Senate rules and not House rules, and so we'll be represented. There'll be 2 from Geauga and 2 from the other counties, no matter what size it is. So at least we'll be represented, equally. But typically, what's happening is individuals like myself, executive director of JFS and Children's Services, and also Family First Council coordinator, have been in a lot of other counties, been the 2 individuals that have been appointed by their commissioner's office to represent the county on that regional council. And both Nancy and I had talked about it. We'd like to, if it's okay with you, or if you want someone else, we understand, but Nancy's sort of overseen this money in the past.
We've been getting this money for a long time. Actually, I think, and I've forgotten this because it's been like 15 or 20 years, but Family First Council was your representative to get this money.
fell under, it's like your local advisory board for, the Commissioner's Local Advisory Board for this Children's Trust Fund. And so a long time ago it was delegated, and that's true in many counties. The County First Council gets the money and then distributes it. And so this is a big change, but we have been doing it really on your behalf, even though you hadn't heard about it directly probably very often. So we were feeling that we both have a good perspective on how the money should be spent, and it's the only prevention dollars that come in to the counties, or would come into this regional council, prevention for child abuse and neglect. There really isn't any other money that comes for prevention. So it's really key, and we don't want to see in this regional council that it gets lost to the other counties in the region. So we both think we could be pretty good advocates for keeping it.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
Geauga.
historically, I think it's been just short of $33,000 that the county has gotten, which previously went to Family First Council. We don't technically know yet, I don't think it's been answered from the state yet, exactly who would be getting this money, what account it would go in, how much
How
it
they
would
would do
be.
it,
That they haven't answered those questions, so we would want to be at the forefront advocating for obviously as many of these dollars, you know, as we can get in and fight for those dollars. Because
this county.
For this county, yeah, absolutely.
But you maybe even get more than what you've been.
We'll fight for it. I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
how much they're gonna give and what structure and how they divvy it up, but again, these are the only state dollars that exist for prevention. And so, you know, it's nice, every single dollar of that, to hopefully, you know, do on either education or some of the programs that are out there that really
Isn't that
help.
crazy though, when you think about that, that's all,
Yeah.
it's all there.
Well, and that's a very good question. Each
Absolutely.
county was getting money. But now it's unclear how much money there's even going to be at the regional council. So it's not at all clear how much anybody's going to get.
Well, and this is why I object so vehemently to regional solutions. And by the way, you cannot find two better people. I mean, I'm gonna put you on this board, because we got two strong advocates, and probably the nicest lady in all of Geauga County is right here in front of us.
Wow.
So,
You must
I
not know
second
me
that.
that well. I don't know.
see, right?
Get her behind closed doors so she's
Yeah.
a bulldog.
I know that's what
Yeah,
I'm
you
saying.
don't know that side.
She's the velvet glove. And I've seen her in action. I saw her yesterday at the Family's First Council. She's phenomenal. But I will tell you that these regional councils that are being promoted by John Kasich are a disaster for our county. Because what happens is you pool all these dollars, and we see this in the Geauga Regional Council, and the dollars are gonna flow to the area of greatest need. Is Geauga, in considering those people who are in the regional group, where is the greatest need? Is it Geauga County or Ashtabula County or Trumbull County? And so it is a mechanism for the state to spread the wealth. And it does not in the best interest of our county. And these regional councils cost more money, they're less efficient. I mean, I could go on and on about the disaster that regional councils provide. And I could not say more strong words against
The concept.
the concept of regionalism, which was supported by our state legislator, by the way, and I'm gonna reach out to our legislators and express a similar opinion. But that said, if we're gonna have a regional council, we can't push back on that. I can't think of two better people to be honest.
Well, and that's why I think we'll fight for the dollars that deserve to come in the county, and I think it's still at the end of the day your favorite, but it's better to have a place at the table being vocal about it, you know, than not being and just being absent. And so, I mean,
And we'd be pretty vocal.
No.
You're either at the table or on the menu, one or the other.
And just so you guys know, I mean, again, we talked, Ohio also ranks 50th out of 50 states for money that goes towards children's services.
Which is crazy.
50th out of 50 states that go towards children's
These are
services.
federal dollars that flow back, so we're at the bottom of the pile. This is federal dollars.
And state dollars.
I mean, how could we be 50th out of 50 states when it's state dollars?
Yeah. Well, I mean, funding for
For
children's
putting
services.
it into children's services.
We,
Oh, I see what
you
you're
see
saying.
what I'm saying?
I got you.
The funding that goes towards children's services. for the
No,
last
we
couple
have other dollars that flow to children's services, just not through this particular.
No, that's why we
Right.
have gone, you know, our community's been so supportive through, you know, the levies and things like that. But it puts it on the backs of our county taxpayers when really we'd like to see more of a commitment you know, from the state, and that's why being part of this and fighting for these dollars is ever so important, you know, so, because it, you know, comes from taxpayers of all, not just our own.
Craig, I apologize because I was signing my name a million times like these guys, but I didn't hear this council that you're going to be on. What's the makeup representation? Are we at a disadvantage with other counties? Or
No,
is
that's
it
what I was just saying.
two representatives from each county.
But
All
that's why I was
right.
saying if we play by the
Yeah.
Senate rules, not House rules.
So
So
that's good.
there's two, you know,
Okay, yeah, I think of other groups that we're on that are not proportional.
like no
Well, yeah, but they say they're proportional, that fight's going on right now. But we have 3 representatives and Cuyahoga Cleveland has 25 representatives, so,
And in the packet of information that I sent up, it explains all of that.
okay, I just wanted to double check
Everybody will
that.
have two.
Two.
So then that's a very good
And
thing,
I'd like to think we'd be more vocal than most of the
than
other
some people.
Yeah, you need to be the aggressive too, all right?
Yeah, but generally speaking, it's, I mean, to answer this question for me, you sit on a number of these boards. This board has not been constituted yet, this regional
Correct.
council, so, which is part of the crisis, there's gonna be a resolution that everybody should be aware of, or at least we're suggesting a resolution, to delay it for a year, because Ohio's has not got its act together yet.
Well, and our
So-
council's gonna ask for that. A lot of the councils are writing letters because it's not ready to go. So this whole upcoming year,
Which is
we
pretty
don't know what's
typical.
gonna happen.
You know, we can throw these ideas down on the table, and then it takes 5 years to figure out how to make it
Right.
work. And so, but, generally speaking, it's not a shouting match. It's not the person who's the most vocal at the table.
No.
Because there is a mechanism that kind of deciphers, there's a little formula, an equation that deciphers where that money's gonna go. And oftentimes it flows to the area of greatest need.
Yeah, I
And
mean, at a
Geauga County
minimum,
is not the,
you know, the groups that have been receiving this money, you know, I think to a certain degree are somewhat, have not necessarily been dependent, but there's been an expectation that some of the programs, so we really hope that the state's not so far behind that we don't see any of these dollars this year.
we don't want
You
the
know,
programs
because-
to fall apart while the state is fiddling around with things.
Exactly, so, I mean, that's why at least we want to get our ducks in a row and get appointed and, you know, try to move forward with this.
people ought to reach out to John and John and Sarah and Capri until she leaves, and express dissatisfaction with the fact that they passed this goofy regional thing. And make sure that they get this thing up and running so it doesn't,
Yeah.
or at least give us a pass, create a bridge.
They thought it was gonna be up and running by January 1st, and they haven't even they haven't even figured out how they're really gonna do it yet.
So they're holding money down there until they figure it out,
I
right?
think
Yes.
so, yes.
Mhm.
So we're gonna ask that this
And
coming
you also
year-
know that a number of counties or councils have applied and have been denied?
Well, the people that wanted to be the regional coordinator, out of the 8 regions, only 1 was selected, then they put it out for rebid. So that doesn't say very much about their process. I mean, they don't even have people in any of these counties doing this yet. So, but they were very unclear as to what the regional coordinator should do and how much they would be paid to do it. And so they just had to put it out for rebid, and people don't rebid things very much through the state, I don't think. At least I haven't seen that. So it's all up in the air right now.
We'll keep you apprised of
Right.
what's going on, and a couple of us are scheduled to go down to meet with all the legislators on March 2nd, myself included, so, you know, for State House Day, so. we'll,
So when's the
keep pushing.
request gonna be put in to ask for a year delay?
Well, we're gonna write a letter from our Family First Council, which actually I was gonna write today. I think other councils are doing the same thing. I think we should send it to, we were gonna send it to the trust fund people, but to John Kasek's office, I think would be good, and to the legislators, I was thinking, because it's just sort of stuck. Nothing's happening with it right now.
Is this developmental services?
It's Job and Family Services. That's where Ohio Children's Trust Fund money is housed.
So does that a block grant from Department of Developmental Services? Does it come from the same place as the Community Action Black?
No,
Black
it's
Grant
different.
and all that, no?
Right, it's a different setup. It's coming through Ohio Job and Family Services is where that money is housed. So they have their own little division. And right out of the blue, they decided to change all this, even though it's been working this way for a very long time. And many good programs are gonna be cut in other counties too, but in ours, we feel like these people, and you might have heard of Incredible Years, it's a very good program for young kids. We use our money here to help fund that, and that's a really good program, and it's in jeopardy if we can't get the money to keep going there, so. And a lot of counties have those good local programs like that.
House Bill 64 changed a lot of programming and social services and ended some programs and created new programs that we're all, adjusting to, so.
In mass, is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, some of it is, we're waiting to see yet. I mean, some of the things, for example, there's, and I don't want to digress too much, but we have something called CCMEP, Comprehensive Case Management and Employment Program, which is supposed to start, July 1st, which I'll be coming down, in a couple months to talk to you about like this, which is a completely whole new way of doing case management for those that are on oath, which is, your cash assistance, how it works, first money, and also people that are participating in, our jobs, Ohio Means Jobs program. It's gonna completely restructure, those divisions and change and there's rules and things that we go by, gotta go by. And the laws are out, but the policies that we're supposed to use to implement them don't even exist yet. And this is supposed to be coming out July 1st. So, there's just a lot of changes, and this is one of them, just another example of one of them.
Every year, I go to the CCAO conference. I've attended now 3 years. And all of the 3 years that I attended, there's a representative from Jobs and Family Services there. And every year, I've heard the representative from Jobs and Family Services stand up and give a speech and talk about how dysfunctional Jobs and Family Services is. And every year, I say, well, if you're dysfunctional and you know it, why don't you fix it? And every year, they tell me, we're working on it. Now,
And
that's
they
been-
change it a different way.
Yeah,
Well,
so people need to know, reach out to your representatives. Jobs and Family, these guys are on the ground, working their heinies off to try and work through a very complicated set of rules, working within an extremely complicated organization of the state of Ohio, who admits to being dysfunctional. And
Well, you guys saw your
yeah.
response when we were talking earlier about getting responses from the state. We have the same exact issues when we're trying to reach out to the state too, because we're state-run, county-administered programs. So our oversight's supposed to be the state. We reach out to help, to look for the oversight, and, we'll get back to you.
They don't want to give
We're
answers.
working on it, wait till next week, yet we're trying to serve, whether it's the state, completely cutting off 800 people from our county for Medicaid, it just happens, and we have to deal with it because they came to us to determine their eligibility, but it's not our fault that they just got cut
And
off.
then when they call the state tells these individuals.
Oh, talk to your county.
Call the commissioners and complain.
Oh,
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate, but we gotta deal with it, and we gotta keep serving people.
Mhm. Well, I see you guys working your hearts out over there, and it frustrates me, because I see what you have to work through, and then I go down and I listen to the director stand up in front of people and say, 3 years now, it's like, okay, you've had 3 years to fix this stupid thing, fix it.
And it's still dysfunctional.
And it's still dysfunctional. So, anyway, people need to know that, you need to raise a little bit of cane with these guys down there, so, anyway, thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
Listening to this guy.
Anytime, great to see you guys. You got a vote though.
Yeah, we need a motion.
The Department of Job and Family Services is requesting the board approve the appointment of Craig A. Swinson and Nancy Silbach to the Ohio Children's Trust Fund Child Abuse and Child Neglect Regional Prevention Council for a 2-year term.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Good seeing you guys.
Take care.
Yeah, great seeing you.
He stepped out. He stepped out. He was sitting in the back.
He was.
He's been coughing real bad.
Oh.
I'll bring him in.
Well, just leave him stay out if he's coughing that bad. If he's contagious, keep him back there. You're contagious. Call in.
It was a rough night. Morning,
Good morning.
beautiful day out today. We're just a talkative crew this morning.
30 years ago today, it wasn't a beautiful day.
It's always a beautiful day.
Or 38 years ago, I should say.
38.
38 years ago today, it wasn't a beautiful day.
Our first three, the maintenance department, these are service contracts that we keep open. These are really 2-year contracts that we keep open throughout the year. That way, if we get something that goes down, a tree falls down or something, we're not capable of doing it, then we can call these folks in. The first ones are Nolan Door. About 3-4 years ago, we started this, and started replacing some doors, 1 or 2 a year. This is a maintenance program thing that we've been doing and getting a lot of our exterior doors up to snuff and getting them going a whole lot better. The second one is the tree service, and then the third one is our universal disposal for the grease trap septic tank at the county jail. We have that pumped out twice a year with all the grease. They do all the cooking and everything in there, and it goes in there. And preventive maintenance of them coming in and pumping out that tank. That's a 2,000-gallon tank that we have down there at the safety center.
I have a question for you that number 9 reminds me of. I don't think it has much to do with number 9 except the word door. And that is, we are supposed to be getting automated doors for here.
Yes, but we're working on that through the Anita.
Okay, and it has nothing to do with this. This is a maintenance agreement. But do you have any idea when we're looking at
I
the
can check on that.
electric doors? Handicap doors, push button.
The push button doors.
Yeah.
I'll check on that and get back with you.
Oh, okay, that just, this reminded me of that, so. I don't know, that's it for me, if you wanna read them.
You want to do 9, 10, and 11 together? Since the maintenance department is requesting the board approve and execute a service contract agreement with Nolan Door and Hardware Company Incorporated to perform door installations and maintenance service for Geauga County buildings for the years 2016 and 2017 in the amount not to exceed $20,000. The maintenance department is requesting the board approve and execute a service contract agreement with Valor Tree Service to perform tree maintenance services as needed for Geauga County properties for the years 2016 and 2017 in an amount not to exceed $8,000. The maintenance department is requesting the board approve and execute a service contract agreement with Universal Disposal Incorporated to perform grease removal and maintenance of the safety center grease trap septic tank for the years 2016 and 2017 in an amount not to exceed $3,000.
I'll make those motions.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickwell?
Question number 4. All right, I had expected, and I perhaps was not paying attention, we have not gone through number 12 yet, have we?
No.
Okay, so when we get there and do it, the public would greatly appreciate an understanding of a sidewalk boiler, please. What is a sidewalk boiler?
We're good.
A sidewalk boiler is as you know, when you come up to these sidewalks here at 470, we have them at the annex and we have part of it at the courthouse steps. There's tubes that run through the sidewalks. They keep these sidewalks heated. So when it's snowing or we get ice, it automatically melts the snow on the sidewalks and everything. This last snowstorm that we had, just on buildings 1, 2, 3 alone, we had 3 guys on that almost all day long, shoveling snow, salting and everything, due to the high flow of traffic that we have to go in these county buildings.
And that one over there has been down for how long?
That one's been down for about 3 months now. We went out, got 3 quotes, we're gonna repair it. Just the cost of repairing that boiler was not worth what we would get out in the long run, so we went ahead and got quotes for new ones. And those quotes ran anywhere from the $23,000 all the way up to $62,000.
The maintenance department is requesting the board approve and execute a service contract agreement with Phillips Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling to supply and install sidewalk boiler and control work at 470 Center Street, Chardon for the year 2016 in an amount not to exceed $23,685.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickwell?
Does that answer
Here, thank you.
Yeah, take some. Caribbean vacation.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
So adjourned.
Thank you for coming.